Welcome to Mountains Made Low, where we help you encounter the love of God and live well in the modern world. I'm Christine Reagan.
And I'm Dennis Mueller.
So this week is our 1-year podcast anniversary.
Happy anniversary. Yeah,
Happy anniversary.
Happy
Thank
anniversary.
you. This has been fun. What do you think you've learned about yourself, podcasting, your faith?
Well, I've learned a lot about you.
Things you wish you could forget.
I mean, we've worked pretty closely over the last 6 years or so that we've been together here in ministry. But yeah, getting to see how your mind really works, that's a whole different animal.
Yeah, it's like a men are from Mars, women are from Venus type of a thing sometimes, where I'm like, aren't we saying the same thing, but we think we're saying totally different things? But I think this is why men and women are actually very complementary.
Yeah.
Because if there were two yous in this room,
I know.
Nobody could bear it.
No,
So it would
I wouldn't be able to bear it. But I think like something that our listeners don't know, like Christine and I will get into arguments. We will argue about something we'll go like 30 minutes to an hour arguing, only to realize that we were both talking about the same thing at the end. So I don't know if it's a listening skill. We were both coming at it from a different perspective, but not seeing the other's perspective. And
things that no one's heard.
Yeah.
Like bits that we have clipped out because we're like, nobody could stand this. I think the best one was... And at one point I want to release it. I don't know how we're going to do that, but it was almost a full half hour, you're right, of arguing about when somebody should be forgiven. When as a Christian, we should extend forgiveness to other people.
Yeah.
And to be honest, to be that kind of engaged in a conversation is very fun for me. I despise you at the same time in those moments. But I actually think that was a really beneficial conversation because your point was well taken. And I think I had something equally as valuable to offer.
Yeah.
But we were coming at it from two completely different perspectives.
Yeah.
And one day I'd love to know what the people will make of this. We're going to do something a little different today. This is a coffee talk. So we tried to time it like this so we would be able to do something a little bit more fun for our 1-year podiversary. And we're going to play a game, a Catholic biblical edition of Would You Rather. So instead of just posing questions to each other and having conversation, this will be a bit more of a game, like 2 scenarios. What would you choose? Would you rather do this or would you rather do that? This was your idea, by the way.
It was my idea.
It sounds like it would be me. This is all you.
No, it was my idea. I had stumbled upon it somewhere on social media, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is so simple. It's so brilliant. I really liked it. So I threw it out to Christine, and she said, well, let's go with it. This is pretty good. And I think this is something that you can do, too. If you have a family at home or just even if it's just you and a spouse at home, or if you get together with a friend over coffee, just throwing out a couple of these questions are great just conversation starters and prompters to kind of figure out, well, why?
It'd be a great,
why would you do that?
Like Sunday family game night.
Yeah.
Which we did growing up. I don't know if you ever did some stuff like that.
Well, we do. We're big. My family's big with games. So anything like this is kind of like right up my alley. Maybe that's why I found it so appealing when I heard it.
You learn something about other people. Why would they choose what they choose? So let's see what happens today.
You can start.
I will start. Okay. Would you rather be a shepherd or be a magi?
It's funny. I was just looking at that question before we started. I would rather be a shepherd. And the reason why I'd rather be a shepherd is because, first off, the Magi had to wait several years. I'm not going to get into that, but read your Bible. There's a difference between Matthew and Luke. It took maybe about 2 years for them to kind of get to Jesus. Jesus was already a child, following some star. Man, the shepherds had it. They saw this heavenly host, right? So, I mean, and like we don't use those terms today, but like a host is a legion of angels. And I can't remember if it says host or host plurals, but you're talking 5,000 angels or more appear to him, declaring the birth of Jesus. And the other thing is they were right in the hills. It was a short walk to Bethlehem, wherever they were.
They were home for dinner.
Right, they were home for dinner. It's exciting. I'm not one for like long road trips and stuff. So I would rather have been a shepherd than...
I think I would agree with your answer. It's a good one.
That's it? That's all you're going to say?
Well, I didn't know that we were going to answer the same questions.
Well, what would you?
I would be king. I would like to glimpse how you feel every day, and I would like to make myself a king. I think that the shepherds...
I just got that, by the way. I'm a little slow on the take.
It's all right. It's Monday. I would be a shepherd as well. I think there's something about the spiritual life that I would really be able to connect to with this theme of like Jesus as shepherd and I'm a shepherd. So you would certainly have something in common with the Son of God. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
And to kind of take part in the nativity and just observing these amazing things. As much as I don't really get excited about taking on the smell of sheep, I think I would.
Yeah, I'm not
I think
one
I'd
for
be a shepherd.
farms.
I'm not
Yeah.
either, which is
Yeah.
funny because Lancaster is my favorite place ever. Hence my mug today, which says Amish country. I like to look at that. I'd like to look at those places, but yeah, I think I would be a shepherd too.
That's why I enjoy sitting across from me, because I look Amish with my beard.
You do Amish. You just call him Jedediah Mueller, everybody.
I just got to shave my mustache. All right. Here's one for you. Would you rather work with Mother Teresa serving the poor on the streets of Calcutta, or work with Therese of Lisieux scrubbing floors in the convent?
Oh, I'm not one for cleaning. I would go Mother Teresa. I would rather be with Mother Teresa. I'm a people person, so I think I would much rather be out there engaging with people. And Therese was kind of an intense individual. I don't know. I wonder about how intense some of those conversations might be. I would much rather be out there with the people, serving the poor.
I would actually do the opposite, and I would do it for that very reason. With Therese of Lisieux, I mean, she's a doctor of the church.
You want to pick her brain on the floor?
Yeah. So it would just be. I think that those would be engaging conversations, and even though, like, again, it was menial, mundane work, very servile type stuff, often given to her in punishment because her
Nobody
her
liked her.
superior didn't like her. But if I was doing that, then one, I'd be no, I was in good company, because clearly, like, I was doing something that deserved this punishment as well. But
It's like you and Therese in detention together. That's what it would be like.
It would be like, but it would be awesome, because just to hear the wisdom that she has and those insights, I think it would be some really good conversations between the two of us. I would.
Because my response is, I think I'd be intimidated by those conversations. I almost want to run away from them because she was probably she's in such intimacy with Jesus.
Yeah.
I wonder how I would
I was hoping
respond to that in the moment.
I would hope that I would learn a thing or two. Right?
True.
Yeah,
True.
Yeah.
Put me outside with the people. I'll learn something from Mother Teresa. I always thought she'd be just a neat lady to be around. Her thing was, whatever you did for the least of my brothers, you did for me. She would always count that on her hand.
Yeah.
You did it for me. I always learned something about Jesus by service. So maybe I need to be on the floor. I think I'd rather be in the slums.
Okay. All right. So you're up.
All right. So, would you rather spend an hour in heaven or a week with Jesus on earth?
Ooh. I would. I was spending a week with Jesus on earth would be heaven.
That's not not untrue.
On paper, that seemed like that was going to be an either or question, but that's, when you asked it, now that I'm thinking about it, that's a little tougher.
Heaven's come to earth.
Well, if you're talking about heaven, you're talking about the glory of God. You're talking about all the saints. You're talking about all the angels for 1 hour. For me, you know what? Now that I think about that, I'd be too much stimuli. I wouldn't be able to take it. I'd probably die. Do you see God face to face? They always talk about, you see the face of God, you would die. I would probably die. I would probably take the week with Jesus.
Oh.
Yeah, I would do a week with Jesus.
I feel like if I'm in heaven for an hour, I feel like you wouldn't want to come back. I mean,
that necessarily wouldn't be a bad thing for some people.
Just a glimpse of it is probably enough. Do you converse with heaven directly when you're talking to Jesus? When he comes, the kingdom's present. So I wonder what it would be like to really be with him for a week. Would I feel like I'm in heaven to some degree? I don't know.
Well, I don't necessarily know the apostles felt that way.
That's a decent point. Yeah.
Man, the encounter piece just in that alone would be enough to, that would sustain my faith for.
Wouldn't it be neat though to be able
eternity.
To come back and in your ministry be able to tell people what heaven is like? That would change some lives. Because if I had a real firsthand experience of it, and people always wonder, well, what do you think heaven's like? And my response is, well, I don't know. I haven't been there yet.
Right.
So I can never really give them any concrete information. But if I had glimpsed it for an hour, then I could really tell people about the glory that awaits them.
Aren't there some people that claim to have done that?
Yeah, that's private revelation. I don't know what to make of that.
Well, what do you think it would be for you? You think it'd be something
But it would have happened to me. It would be a personal witness for me. I don't have to live through other people and their experience. I would be able to invite people into my experience.
Well, isn't that what private revelation is?
Right, but I'm the person that's experiencing it. We're talking
so
about it
it's
for my
different
benefit.
for Christine.
No, it's not different for me. But obviously, I would rather be the one to glimpse heaven than to hear about somebody else glimpsing heaven. Right?
So it's all about Christine.
It's all about Christine, and that is. I think I'd rather see heaven for an hour, and still be able to come back and do the work that I have to do. Because I would think, wouldn't I also meet Jesus
Listen,
in heaven?
here's the
Wouldn't I
thing.
meet Jesus in heaven?
This
He's
is,
there,
yeah,
right?
this is true. But if you came back, you're not worthy of heaven.
I don't think I would want to come back. I think John Christ has a great joke about that. He talks about Lazarus being raised from the dead and them having to get him up in heaven. Like, oh, you got to go back. And he's like, what? I have to go back? This is amazing. Look at my mansion. I just made my bed. This is awesome. An hour in heaven. Is that like a week's time on earth? I mean, who's to say what time even is?
Could be like 1,000 years a day.
Could be.
Yeah.
You would stay here. I would go to heaven and then tell people all about it.
Well, when you kind of rephrased it that way, maybe I would rethink things, but I'm going to stick with my answer.
All right. Let me take a sip. Sorry. Go ahead.
Let's
Pick
see.
your question carefully.
All right, so here's a good one. Would you rather witness a Eucharistic miracle or have a vision of Jesus?
Oh. I'd rather have a vision of Jesus because I don't know that, obviously witnessing a Eucharistic miracle, I'm not going to say it wouldn't change my life, but I have a pretty firm belief in the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist. I don't know that I would choose that over, I don't really struggle with Eucharistic understanding. That's not something that has been a challenge. And that sounds so...
You don't ever have periods of doubt?
About the Eucharist?
Yeah.
No, I really don't.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, not really about the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist. So,
Okay.
and if a vision of Jesus is at stake...
And I'm not asking that question because I do, by the way. I just don't want to
Tell us more about that, Dennis.
Yeah.
Let me...
Why are you asking that?
Certainly, if I were to see something like a host bleeding, right, on a corporal or something like that, that is going to make a significant impact. I'm not going to say it wouldn't.
Yeah.
But I think that would be especially beneficial for people who were struggling with and that's where a lot of the stories of the Eucharistic miracles, they came from, or they were directed to people who were struggling with a belief of Jesus in the Eucharist.
Yeah.
I can't say that at this moment in time that's where I'm at. So I would choose a vision of Jesus.
What would the vision of Jesus bring you? What would be the enriching part? Why would you lean to that? You talked about why you wouldn't go for the one, but you didn't talk about why you would go for the other.
Oh gosh, I mean, wouldn't just seeing the real face of Christ be such a game changer for you? To not wonder what he looks like, but to now when I'm praying, when I'm in Eucharistic adoration, to really contemplate on the face that I saw, his real face, and not just somebody's depiction of him.
Yeah.
That would be... I would love to see his real face
That's
and
good.
live.
That's good. Yeah. No, that's good. I would do the Eucharistic miracle.
I wonder if we'll have the same answer for any of these questions.
I think we did for the first one.
Yeah, it was a softball.
The shepherd. But no, but and the reason why is because, in my heart and soul, I believe what the church teaches about the Eucharist. But then to see the inexplicable, the scientific stuff behind it, that's just...
But can't you see that now? Can't you look into the scientific stuff? I mean, a lot of that stuff has been proven scientifically that it's real.
But again, let's go back to private revelation. There's a difference between hearing about somebody else's thing and experiencing it for yourself.
Right, but you can look into the scientific data now. That's not private revelation. You can examine that for yourself. It's documented.
I understand that, but this would be... For me, you have to understand how my mind works. There's
please explain that to me more and more. I'm working on it.
There's a disconnect between the mind and the heart sometimes when it comes to me. So I know things, but maybe I don't necessarily feel it. Mm-hmm. I know God loves me, but sometimes I struggle with being able to feel that love. I think again, I know everything that about the church's teaching with regards to the Eucharist, but then be able to actually see a Eucharistic miracle, I think that would be a game changer for me to actually experience it, not just to know that it happened to somebody else or scientific evidence is out there, but to have that to experience me, that would be a game changer for me. The same way that you're talking about the vision,
the face of Christ. I just want to know how closely Jonathan Rumi resembles Jesus? That's really what I want to know. Would you rather attend Mass where everything is sung or a daily Mass with no music or homily? And why?
Well, I would rather do a high mass for me. Yeah. All the bells and the whistles. You just kind of get pulled into it physically, mentally, emotionally, all that stuff when you're. I think our senses are heightened for a high mass. I think that's a good thing. Not that there's anything wrong with daily mass. I mean, daily mass. I mean, the focus is really on the reception of Jesus, right? Because a lot of times there is no homily, there is no music. It moves quick. You're just into the liturgy. But I think sometimes even with daily mass, we can kind of go through the motions because it just becomes words and we're just listening. I think sometimes we need a little bit more concentration than maybe with a high mass where there's more opportunities for us to fully participate, in the liturgy.
That's fair.
That's what I would do.
I think I need more like clarifying circumstances of this high mass. Like if my kids are present, please don't have me at a high mass. Oh, I think I might. It's nice to be transported. I agree with you that it's an important element of faith to have your heart and your mind and to be in the midst of just really, really grand sacred things.
Yeah.
I like that idea. And it's a necessary reality for myself and everybody, I think. Sometimes I think that high masses can be performative, that it becomes more of a concert than worship. And
I've never experienced that, though.
It's something, well, I'll tell you
myself.
why I say that. Because when churches have these high masses, the choirs that they bring in, some of the soloists that they have, the cantors, they're
see what
not
you mean.
necessarily disciples. And I'm not, sometimes I'm not a disciple, so
Right.
I'm not trying to call them out. But sometimes I feel as though they're trying to give the people the best experience possible of music and liturgy. But I sense a disconnect between the singers, the musicians, and the liturgy itself. And I wonder if that's a good thing.
Yeah. So again,
And I think maybe they look at it like a concert,
Yeah.
right? Oh, because they're getting paid. Many times these people get stipends, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't, because this is their craft, and they want to contribute this talent, but they also have to be reimbursed for it so they can make a living. I think oftentimes musicians can look at it like a gig, and I don't think Mass should ever be a gig.
yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. But now our listeners truly understand what I have to deal with on a weekly basis as we do this podcast when a question is posed to Christine. Because it was a simple question. And Christine had to throw all these conditions in, like, are my kids going to be there? That's going to be a whole different answer. Just to answer the question as it's proposed. Do you ever notice how, like, when I do ask a question and Christine comes...
No, you are not that easy to deal with. Do not make yourself sound like a delight, because you're not.
You just did this last time. You just, like, I asked the question, and you went, and you're like, well, what about blah, 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 blah? And I'm like, okay, let me repeat the question. And I repeated the exact same question, because the question doesn't change. This is the question that's being asked. But yes, this is the...
Do you just want me to be like everybody else?
No, not at all. Not at all. This is what makes it
But I
entertaining.
want you to be somebody different.
No, this is what makes it entertaining. So
I do think I'm making a significant point, though.
you are, yeah, if that was part of the question. But my point is, when I'm talking about high mass, and maybe this is me reading into the question. When I hear
Just
high
answer
mass,
the question. It's a simple question, Dennis. I don't know why you have to complicate
when
it.
I hear high mass, my mind immediately goes to it's the church choir singing, the priest is singing the different parts of the mass, everything is being done reverently, all that stuff. I'm not thinking about bringing ringers in.
Oh, I'm thinking of like a big to-do down at the cathedral.
So again, this is one of those examples where we're hearing the same thing. We're talking about two different things. And then it'll take us 40 minutes of hashing this out to realize that we're really talking about the same thing, or we're just something that's just slightly
We just
nuanced.
interpret it very differently.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so is it my turn?
It's your turn.
Oh. Would you rather be a religious sister or a consecrated virgin?
It's funny because there was a time in my life where I feel like I asked myself, like pre-marriage, everything that the actual vocation that I gave my life over to, I probably thought about this with some level of seriousness. I think I would go consecrated virgin because as far as I'm aware, consecrated virgins still operate outside,
They
kind
do.
of in the secular world.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where I am best suited.
Yeah.
I don't know how well I would do in a religious community with a bunch of other women. I think I'd be scrubbing the floors as a penalty more times than not. And I love women. I'm not, I just, that dynamic all day, every day in a religious community, I just don't know if I would be meant for that.
You're not called for that.
But I also love being married, which is,
well, that's
I don't think either
that's
of
not
these.
a part of the question, Christine. That wasn't
Really?
the question.
What did you have this morning?
I just drank my tea, so I'm all caffeined up. That wasn't part of the question. It was single religious life, single consecrated virgin life.
Okay.
Marriage wasn't even in the equation. But I'm happy that you enjoy being married.
I do enjoy being married.
Clearly, God
yes.
called you to that. Just so, like, maybe explain what a consecrated virgin, because, like, I think a lot of people might not even know that that's even an option.
Okay,
People know what religious sisters are, and
so a consecrated virgin, there's different communities that you can participate in consecrated life. You also have a professional life, and you operate. You don't live in community necessarily.
no, you don't. You live.
Yeah.
You live
You
in the
live
secular
your
world. You have a job,
life, right?
Yeah,
But you
have a
take
job.
vows to be celibate,
right?
and you
To be celibate.
to be celibate.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
I think you said you take vows not to be.
No,
be celibate.
you take a vow to be celibate.
That's right.
That's what I said.
Okay, that's
Okay.
not what I heard though. But I just want to make sure. That's
If I had a nickel for every time Dennis heard something different than what I said, man, this is the toll a year's worth of working together is taken.
Year 2 is questionable.
Our Podbean thing just automatically re-upped, so
Right.
we already put the money down. I'm sure that there are a number of meetings that you have to attend. I mean,
Yeah, and
there's
your life
still a
is dedicated
communal
to the
lifestyle
church,
to
yeah.
it. So my question to you, because you can't answer this question, and this is not really related to the game that we're playing, but I'm curious to hear what you have to say. So you almost became a deacon.
I did.
Why didn't you ultimately become a deacon? Because you had a chance to be a member of the clergy, and you did not.
Yeah, and like, woo, I was 6 months away from ordination too, so you can't get much closer to the wire than ordination day.
And this was entirely your own doing.
Yeah.
You were like, I'm taking myself out of ordination.
Yeah,
consideration.
there was an interior struggle for a couple of years that I was trying to work with spiritually, and just an interior discontent. There was just something that was a little off, and it took me a little bit. God really had to use my. He turned around and said, "He's not going to get this unless I just put him really under such pressure that he's just about ready to explode." So, it actually, all this kind of developed into health issues, and I kind of realized that this was something that God wanted me to do, but wasn't calling me to. I mean, I see where the diaconate was a necessary part to get me from point A to point B to where I am today. I always had a question. There was always a little bit of an indecisiveness. Like, I always felt called to some type of an ordained life, but then I end up being married and having, a beautiful family and a beautiful wife. And how do I reconcile these two differences? Well, I thought, diaconate, and there we go. We got the best of both worlds.
It seems like it makes sense.
Yeah, it seemed like it made sense and everything. But God clearly showed me that my primary and only vocation was to married life and fatherhood. So he cleared that up for me after, decades of kind of questioning and wondering and trying to figure out how that was all going to play out. So it was definitely something that I needed, but even some of the things that I had to work on that I identified as part of the program with the human formation, areas in my life that needed work, spiritual areas, personality, all these other things. I needed to get through all of that stuff in order to be prepared for what God was lining me up for next. So it was good. I don't regret it at all. Yeah, my buddies were all devastated when I told them, because we were a week out from doing all of our liturgical and comprehensives and everything, and then it would have been a cakewalk for the next couple of months, kind of up until ordination.
Yeah.
Not a literal cakewalk, but it would have gotten a lot easier because all that stuff would have been done.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
No, you're welcome. So does this mean that I get to go and do another question?
No, that was just your version of my question.
Okay.
How about this? Would you rather have the strength of Samson or the wisdom of Solomon?
Ooh, well, I've been hitting the gym pretty frequently, except for the last month. So, the strength of Samson.
Spare us, oh Lord.
The strength of Samson is appealing, but I would rather have the wisdom of Solomon. Mm-hmm. Wisdom, as we understand in the biblical sense, to be able to see things the way God sees it. Not necessarily that's why human wisdom is folly, because we're limited by our experience. But to be able to see and to experience things with godly insight and wisdom, that would be, that would be a game changer, because I would have much better understanding about not just my faith, but like where things are headed, where God is leading me. And it'd be so much easier to accept God's will and to do God's will if I completely and truly understood it. But at the same time, it would take away some of that mystery. And my spiritual director always just kind of rolls his eyes when I kind of go down this rabbit hole, because I'm like, just if God would just tell me what to do, I would do it. Just tell me and I'll do it, But that's not what God
That's not what's best for you.
Right. God needs to stretch you. He needs to kind of pull you so you can learn something about yourself, because that's where the real change is going to take place. It's not a matter of him just saying, do this, and you doing it. And it's funny. My daughter and I are the same. We're personality and the way we even the way we handle things emotionally, intellectually. And she's going through a period of discernment herself. And again, she's just like, I just wish God would tell me I'm praying. But like, I said, well, God, all this stuff that he's putting you through he's stretching you, because there's something about you that needs to be worked on in order to get there. Been there, done that. I can preach it, but it's a lot harder to live it.
Yeah.
Right. But wisdom.
Easier said than done.
Solomon.
I think I would go Solomon too. For those of you who don't know who Solomon is King David's son.
Yeah, it would be helpful.
He's the one who the temple is attributed to, yep. Solomon's temple. The first temple that was destroyed.
And who's Samson? Was he a judge?
Let's go with that.
Yeah.
And if we're wrong, I'll edit it out. Yeah. But I think the story of Solomon always prayed for the right things. Solomon's prayers were rightly ordered. He asked God for the things that God wanted to give him, and then God just lavished him with gifts and skills and talents, which is why we're still talking about Solomon today. And that story of him, the splitting the baby story, is just like one of the great moral lessons of all time.
Yeah.
And you learn about that in law school. I think to be able to have that kind of keen insight to see who the mother was. I mean, you learn something about observing the human person. You learn something about motherhood. You learn something about just how Solomon analyzed that situation and made the right determination. And that's often what I want to do. I want to just choose rightly. I want to know the truth. And he knew the truth, and he knew how to get to the truth. The only reason he's that wise is because it was a gift from God. And it's because he asked for the right things. Yeah. So I hope that I ask for the right things in this life.
Yeah, and Samson, he had a kryptonite thing. Cut his hair and it was all over.
He's all brawn and no brains. So I know. Sometimes I look at you and I say, all brawn, no brains.
Here's one for you. Would you rather be present at Jesus' crucifixion or his resurrection?
Resurrection.
Okay.
Because if I saw somebody rise from the dead with my own eyes, saying that, it sounds like I don't believe that Jesus rose from the dead.
Yeah.
I do believe he rose from the dead. But to be an eyewitness of it, I mean, look what it did to the ones who were an eyewitness of it.
Yeah.
And you were asking me about the Eucharistic miracles. There are times where I wonder, gosh, is it all true? I think we all have those moments where you have that fleeting thought, it comes into your mind. If I saw it with my own eyes, especially if I saw him die and then rise. Yeah. But no, I would rather see the resurrection from the dead. I would rather see what Thomas saw. I would rather be transformed the way that Peter is when he just seems so radically different. And that's what we all need to. We're here trying to become radically different and holy. So the holiness that I think would come from that eyewitness experience change me. But I need to be able to figure out how to be changed with God's grace in the same way here, because it's not like it's any more or less true. I just didn't see it with my own eyes.
Right.
But I can see it with eyes of faith. So I want to...
I would do crucifixion. I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. I think it's great, and it's kind of like you do you. But I know you hate that expression.
You do you.
I know you hate that expression. But the same reasons why I wouldn't choose resurrection are the same reasons that you would not choose a Eucharistic miracle. Like
okay,
I don't need that to be able, because we see.
We sound so conceited, and so I don't need.
No, and that's not what I mean.
But both of us with Eucharistic miracles, keep it to yourself.
Right. No. That's not what we mean by that at all. But like when it comes to the crucifixion, to be able to see everything that Jesus endured for love of me, that would be a game changer. I mean, that would just be like I would never have. You know what? It's funny because from a psychological perspective, we remember good things that happen to us, but if you think about like some of these big momentous events, the details behind those are they're not always as vibrant or as plentiful. We remember, like if I go back and I can remember certain aspects of my children's, birth and different things.
Suffering, you remember kind of more viscerally.
Yeah, but
I get what you're saying.
There's a visceral thing that like once you see it, you can't unsee it. And
it's almost like time slows down a little bit in those
Yeah,
moments.
yeah.
You think the good times are rolling by way too fast.
Yeah.
And then the times that are more challenging, it's slow down.
Yeah.
And you live in it for longer almost.
Yeah, and I think that is where I'm coming from with the crucifixion, just to be able to visualize that and to never doubt. I would never ever doubt ever again the depth of God's love for me. Because sometimes we can, sometimes we just kind of like, God couldn't possibly love me, blah, blah, blah. Or does he love me? We have all these questions. We
here's
just
the thing,
talked about that in a couple episodes ago.
Here
But
I
for
am
me-
ruining the question, though. Are you seeing the crucifixion and not knowing about? Because
Well-
if I pick the resurrection, I'm saying, well, I did not witness the crucifixion.
Okay.
So what if you just saw the crucifixion?
As soon as I asked the question, I actually meant to put that caveat in there and realized I didn't
So I'm not
because
the
of
only
your
one
answer.
putting caveats.
Right. So, no, but, because I know that you like them. Right. But knowing everything that you know today.
The crucifixion and the resurrection are like, you can't separate the events.
Yeah.
A perspective, how we celebrate them in the church.
Right.
It's all one
But
event.
that's not what we're talking about. There you go with another caveat.
No, but the miraculousness
We're not
of
talking
Jesus'
about
birth
celebrating. There is no celebration at this time. Nobody's celebrating anything. You witness Jesus' crucifixion or you witness his resurrection. Today we celebrate everything all together, right? Lent, Easter, all that stuff. It's all leading towards
Leaster?
that.
Is that Lent and Easter together?
Yeah, it's a Easter. It's all leading to the same thing, but knowing what you know, if you were able to go back.
Knowing what I know now, I would still choose the resurrection because I would have known about the crucifixion, but I would have seen the fulfillment of all of Jesus's promises.
Yeah.
That would be a big thing to me.
Yeah, I think we probably could have got some more questions in if you weren't so long-winded, but maybe we have time for one more.
All the long-winded people in this world or in this room. Would you rather attend Holy Thursday Mass or a Good Friday Veneration of the Cross?
For me, it would be Holy Thursday.
Of course it would be. Of course. Why?
Just the Last Supper experience and just thinking about everything. Like I always think about what Jesus says in John's Gospel during this time and, to his disciples about the depth of his love and just it's the Eucharist, right? I mean, it's the Eucharist. I mean, Good Friday has the Eucharist, but there's no Mass, right? I mean, it's just a distribution of Holy Communion during the liturgy. So I just...
It's not just.
No, and I don't mean it way. I don't mean it that way.
There's a reason there's no Mass. I mean, there's...
You're right. But in the same breath, we hear the Passion story at the beginning of the week, and then it bookmarks the end of the week on Friday. I just think that there's just something a little bit unique and beautiful. There's just the procession,
I do like the Pange Lingua.
Yeah,
It's
just
one of
moving
the few
things.
times that we sing that.
Yeah.
And
The Triduum liturgies are truly, without a doubt. I mean, that's my jam. I just love those liturgies. I can never see myself not attending them. But if I had to pick one or the other, if I could only go to one or the other, I would probably pick Thursday over the Good Friday.
it's a really difficult decision to make because I love how the Holy Thursday liturgy, like I love the procession, I love the music, I love how it ends because it really doesn't end.
Yeah.
There's no real distinction between Holy Thursday, Good Friday. I mean, it's just kind of flows from one to the other.
Most people don't realize it's one continuous liturgy.
Yes.
It starts on Holy Thursday, but it doesn't end until the end of the Easter Vigil.
So I'm very drawn into that aspect of it, but I do love the words. Even just reading them in the Missal kind of gives me chills in the moment where it just says, all depart in silence.
Yeah.
I like the solemn nature of Holy Thursday than into Good Friday. It also says the same thing on Good Friday.
Yeah.
I love things that happen on Holy Thursday. I love the stripping of the altar.
Yeah.
I love to watch people do that, because it registers with me that tomorrow's coming. I would pick Good Friday because I absolutely love the John's version of the gospel. I love hearing it. I love hearing it sung. It's one of the few times where I wish we would sing it. I love the veneration, and I love the prostration. I wait all year to see a priest just lay himself before the altar and before the cross. I think it's like an image is worth 1,000 words. That tells you all you need to know about who a Christian is, who a priest is, and what we're meant to be bringing to the liturgy on that day. He's the one who does it, but we should be doing it ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's why our act of veneration is just as important in our own way. So I pick Good Friday, but it's so tough because Holy Thursday is just so beautiful. I think we asked all the questions. Did we? I think we did. Here,
Almost all. Okay.
Would you rather live on manna for 40 years or be struck dumb for 9 months? I know which one I would choose for you. But please give us your answer.
Yeah, I would rather be struck dumb for 9 months. Yeah. I would see you and I would raise you. I would even go as high as 18 months. Rather than having 40 years. And again, manna was great. What an incredible miracle, but it ain't the Eucharist. And
that's a good connection.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And to have to eat that every day for 40 years, forget it. Forget it. I mean, maybe if I was 4 years old, that would work. I would do that, But like my kids growing up, what do you want? Chicken nuggets, chicken nuggets. Everything's like chicken. They're still eat chicken nuggets. My son comes home from college and we have a whole bag of chicken nuggets. Half the bag he throws in the microwave. They just it
Man,
is.
to be able to eat like that at that age must be nice.
I don't. I couldn't do it. I don't necessarily know that I could do it, but I would again because it's only 9 months.
I've done a lot of things for 9 months already. 9 months can seem like an eternity.
Yeah.
But 9 months would end. It's a lot less than 40 years. But I love bread so much. You know this. I could eat bread all day, every day.
Yeah.
But to eat the same kind of bread, and it's a sweet bread, right? Manna had a sweet. I thought it had like a honey quality to it.
Yeah.
And I'm not for sweet things. I don't really like sweet things.
Okay.
So maybe that's not the kind of bread. I just like old-fashioned bread. Give me a baguette. That's all I want. So if I could eat a baguette in the desert for 40 years, I could live off.
You're so snobbish, baguette.
Baguette. With my fancy French cheese. And bread is filling. Bread is, give us this day our daily bread. Give us this day our daily baguette.
But did you notice the question was manna, and now Christine has changed it? Well, if it was a baguette, or if it was a bagel.
I
or
need
if it
options.
Was,
I always need options.
Right. That wasn't the question. It was manna. Welcome to my life, folks.
Thank you for joining us on this final edition of. This was fun. This is a good little change up, and hopefully it gave you something to think about.
You can do this. You can do this with friends and family. It's not complicated stuff at all. I mean, you can even use some of these questions or just kind of create your own. I mean, your faith, so
it makes you think
stories
about
from
some
the Bible does
deep
make you
things
think
in the spiritual life. This seemingly insignificant game makes you really think about what is it that I'm looking for in life, and who am I, and what's God calling me to, and do I need to change things up?
Yeah, it's all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And we decided to do this again, not just for one anniversary, but we've been diving into some really heavy stuff over the last couple of weeks, and it's been good stuff for sure. I mean, we've enjoyed talking about it, and certainly have benefited from the conversation. We hope you have too. But we just wanted to kind of lighten things up.
Yeah.
And we do have another episode that's upcoming. We're working with a colleague of ours because we need a third person to do this. But I'm just going to drop this little, this little teaser right now. Christine and I are going to go head to head in Catholic trivia.
It's called the Faith Off, is what it's going to be called.
Yeah, Faith Off. So I'm excited by that.
Are you good at regular trivia?
Oh, well, first off, I'm just going to go on the record right here and now. I hate trivia.
You hate trivia?
I do. I hate trivia. So, but
or you're not good at trivia. They're two different things.
No, I just don't like it.
Oh, see, I love it.
Yeah.
I quizzo like Sean and I there was a time where we would go to Quizzo every Wednesday night.
Yeah, my daughter, my oldest daughter, Savannah, she's like that. Loves it.
I think you aren't good at it. And you
well,
don't like things that you're not good at.
Maybe it is. That could be. Maybe I'm just masking things. Maybe I stink at trivia, and that's why I don't like it. I don't know, but we're gonna find out once we get ourselves coordinated with. But that'll be.
That's upcoming. So we're just doing a couple extra things to kind of celebrate this. This 1 year
Toil
of
and
ministry.
drudgery. I mean, this 1 year of fun, this 1 year of ministry that we've been doing.
You know how much time you've gotten off in purgatory just from doing this?
I know how much
You're
time
welcome.
I've gotten off. I know how much time I've gotten off. So.
We'll see you next week.
All right. God bless.